Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Big Picture with Chris Principe and your host, Grant McGaugh. Today, we're going to talk about bank games. Now, Chris brought this to my attention. I'm like, bank games? Ooh, that's like Monopoly or some other board games I know growing up. He said, no. These are real games, and they have real consequences on real consumers, because while consumers are working hard to earn their money, banks are often working even harder to maximize what they can make off of that money. So this is bank games. Chris, you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, Grant, good morning, and thanks for being here with me. I'm Chris Principe, publisher of Financial IT. And yeah, I mean, I don't think people understand the depth of what we're calling today bank games. In fact, it reminds me, years ago, there was an old song called The Games People Play.
Yeah.
And you can take the word people out and insert the word banks, and that song would still be totally true.
That, so you have my curiosity at bank games. And then I'm thinking board games, thinking like that. He said, no. This is what happens after you deposit money into the bank, and behind the teller, this is kind of what's going on, and this kind of keeps the world going around. Like last week, you talk about work. If you don't go to work, none of this, kind of happens. So they have to encourage people to go to work. And I know you got some more of these demystifiers, as I'm going to call them, around bank games. So let's get into this, man. Talk to us. Why do you pick bank games today?
Well, Grant, I think it's a great title, and really, from the consumer's point of view, from us, right, we can really look at it at games. But make no mistake, inside the bank, these are not games. Mm-hmm. This is serious work and activities for them that are well thought out. They've gone over them. They have a room full of legal people going through them. They've got a room full of technology people going through them, and they've got a room full of business people, all designed to do one thing, and that's maximize what the bank makes from you.
Okay, so they have a strategy. I want to know, do consumers have a strategy? Because what you just described there, like these guys are coming out to play, and they're coming out to play to win. But I don't know if that hurts the consumer. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe we don't really feel it. But I know things are happening in that room that they're making these decisions.
Well, Grant, as consumers, most of us don't really understand this, don't really pay attention to this, and as a result, don't really know it's even happening. We're doing just what they want, which is follow their lead like sheep.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So what is happening, Chris? I mean, what happens when Grant McGaugh goes down to the bank? He deposit, let's say a couple $1,000s into his checking and savings account, and he's happy. He gets his account number, and he goes away, and maybe he hits the ATM every now and then. What happens after he leaves the bank?
Well, keep in mind that, banking, and people sometimes forget, banks are a business, right? Mm-hmm. And it's a business about not just controlling your money, but controlling all the information, right? Just like, people don't realize politicians and politics are a business, and it's a business of power and money, right? Mm-hmm. And I think people a lot of times don't realize that, for instance, the doctors is also a business, right? And mm-hmm. In fact, I have a cousin who's a doctor, and he reminds me all the time, hey, it's a practice. Okay?
Practice.
So they're practicing all the time, right? But what all those three things have in common banks, politicians, and the medical profession is that they're built on trust, right? So the idea is to develop that trust where it's unquestioned.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And by doing that, and by having people fall right into line with what they're being told, then they're able to be very successful. Banks make a lot of money. Politicians get the offices and the power and the money they want. And the medical profession, of course, locks in their patients so they can practice on them and they make money.
Let's not use practice on them, but let's just stay in our lane about these banks right now. So, and I some of this, looks at consumer behavior and the things that we don't really want to know. Banks do math problems every day. Not too many people like doing math problems. I remember going to school like, oh my God, what are we doing? We're doing word problems today. Like, oh no, not that. No, nobody likes that. But yet, word problems, math problems, these are things that are being done and calculated every single day. When you wake up in the morning, all these things are calculated, consumer behavior, all these things. Where every time we see the up and downs of Wall Street and things like that, it's all on behaviors, like and speculations and whatnot. But they're closely regulated and watched a lot. So these banks are watching these things. Everybody knows about interest rates, but there's so many. I know when I look at some of these balance sheets and I see all these different like yesterday, I did my whole taxes thing, and there's so many unknowns and calculations and like, oh, wow, the reason why you need an accountant or a tax professional because it's complicated maybe on purpose so they can keep these magical formulas working in the background, right?
Grant, I got to pick up right what you said because it's key. It's complicated on purpose.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay? And that's true about a lot of things. And that's why, we've been able to develop, different industries and livelihoods based on expertise, right? And yeah, expertise is a good thing. But again, what happens when you go to somebody who's an expert, your accountant, for instance, right? It's about your trust. I trust that he's going to tell me what's in my best interest to do.
Right.
Okay. And that comes back to the banks also. When you talk about, there's a lot of calculation, a lot of math going on in the background. What we need to understand is that it's constantly being recalculated. Things like interest rates are moving all the time. It only has to move slightly, a percentage of a percent, for the banks to make a lot of money because of the huge volume, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that calculation is happening all the time. And it's not just interest rates, things like currency exchange, right? That's happening all the time. It's constantly, so from our side as consumers, we can never really understand exactly what it is and exactly how they derive that. All we get to understand is, okay, if you want a mortgage, this is the rate. Okay, if you want to send money to Europe, this is the rate. And then there are other layers to that. For instance, with foreign exchange, when we're changing to different currencies or we're traveling out of the country using our credit card, right? There is the fee for changing it, but there's also the hidden element, which is called the spread.
What, the spread?
The spread.
Wow, that sounds like gambling. The spread. I always think the back room, the cigars, the low light, the spread. Let's hear about the spread.
Well, and gambling could be a good analogy here, Grant. I'm glad you hit on that one because in this case, the bank would be the house, and we, of course, are the gamblers.
Right.
And the one thing I've always been told is, who never loses? The house.
The house does not lose. I've never seen not too many casinos have closed, but there have been a few, but not too many.
Yeah, and if they're closing, there's other reasons, typically logistical or these kind of reasons, But once you got a casino that's up and running, it is incredible, and there's a lot of similarities in the way casino games are set up and draw us in, and more importantly, keep us in, as what the banks do to draw us in and keep us in.
Tell me more.
Okay, so very, very, very simple things like, yeah, you've been told, and the system is set up so that you have to have a bank account.
Yeah.
Somehow, some way, you have to have a bank account, And today, it's really questionable in my mind. Do we really need checking accounts? I mean, I don't know about you, Grant, but for me, I'm writing, I don't know, 2 checks a month, maybe, and
A
that's
year.
yeah,
Talking about a month.
and
A
those are
year.
just like specific things and for specific reasons, right? But generally, why do I need a checking account?
Yeah.
Right?
You're not
Okay.
writing checks. I never even thought about it like that. It's just access to money to use my ATM. Not so much I'm writing checks.
Well, and you see, here shows some of the things that have happened to us that the banks have done to us, right? Okay, so think about it this way. I open up a savings account, I open up a checking account. And yes, they pay me interest. It's nominal, right? 1% if I'm lucky on my savings account. And my checking account, they're not paying me any interest, right? But we're conditioned to have the money in the checking account so that if we need to pay a bill, we want to buy something, we use our ATM. Okay, but why? Why not just have only a savings account? You get a minimum amount of interest, and your debit card should be able to draw right out of your savings account. Why do you need the 2 accounts?
Interesting. Obviously, somebody in the back room has been thinking about that, but that behavior, because you don't really, I don't really think about that. That's true, but you do. You'll have a checking account, savings account, and then you might have a brokerage account. Those are really the three
Right. You
kinds.
could have a money market account, you could have a retirement account, you could have all these things. But for your day-to-day use, and I'm guilty too. I have a checking account and I have a savings account, right? I don't keep very much in the savings account. I keep my money elsewhere. And in the checking account, I'm constantly moving money in so that I can pay bills because I don't want to keep too much there either, right?
Right.
And in a lot of ways, that kind of practice is against the system. What the system wants you to do is keep as much money as possible in your checking account, so it's convenient, right? But
they don't pay anything on it. They make more money if all your money. I see what you're talking about here now. So they don't hardly pay any interest in a checking account, so that's a good thing for them. If it's in a savings account, it's a percentage or so. But if it's somewhere else, then it gets it to 4% or more. Then it changes the game.
Well, and keep in mind what we talked about in a previous show is that your checking account, they might pay you no interest, but it's very lucrative for the banks. And we went through a lot of different ways. I mean, there's a fee structure in checking accounts that's designed for them, not you, right? There's other little things that they do in terms of overdraft charges, in terms of transferring your money from one account to another, all these kind of things that are generators for the bank, not for you, right? And again, I'm guilty because I have a checking account, a savings account, but it goes through my mind all the time. Why don't I just get rid of my checking account and keep the savings account and use my debit card against my savings account? What would be the difference?
I just, I think it's the convenience factors. I think through like, what do you give out? Routing numbers, account numbers, like I said, ATM withdrawals, debit cards, things like that. Those, I don't believe those things are connected to a savings account. So I don't know if that instrument is available. I could be wrong.
Well, listen, next time you go to the ATM, right? Put your card in, put your PIN in, and what will come up? It will ask you one of 2 things. Either what do you want to do, deposit, withdraw, whatever. And it will ask you what account. Do you want to do it from your checking account, from your savings account, from your credit card, which they really like, right?
That is true. Yeah. From that one. Yeah, you're right. You're right. So there's all the different services or buckets of money that you could pull from are available there. But purposeful, I think, like I said, over time, and maybe because of the school of thought at the time, growing up, checking account, savings account, that was just what you did. And maybe it's just, you're just, going through the motions of doing that even today when you have a younger generation and they're doing everything electronically. and as you call them, the maybe potentially the unbanked, because they're utilizing all these other forms of payment systems. They're not necessarily using a bank per se. I hear Cash App all the time. I hear Venmo all the time, PayPal all the time, and these are conveniences. And then a lot of times now I see they're all connected then to the cycle of when you get paid, right? I can do an instant withdrawal, through that vehicle. You got all these payday loans all over the place. I mean, there's other things happening now, and it's a interesting playing field. So the bank's got a lot to talk about. We're gonna make a quick break. We're gonna come back because I think we got some curiosity now when people are like kind of thinking through. They're like, yeah, what because it is a common factor of what is happening behind the scenes of a lot of these banks, and why is that important? We'll talk about that.
The difference between influence and legacy, it's the platform that carries your voice. You're not visible because you lack talent. You're visible because your brand doesn't speak. I've built 5-star BD&M to change that. Most leaders have the expertise, but not the presence, the vision, but not the vehicle. Across 3 cities, one brand is helping leaders rise above the noise. Here in the heart of Omaha, strategy isn't left to chance. It's engineered with precision. In Omaha, we engineered your Zachner brand, AI-powered, data-driven, precise. TISA went from a local nonprofit to a national speaker in 90 days. We don't guess your brand strategy, we build it. On the shores of St. Croix, your brand takes on depth and meaning, shaped through curated retreats and legacy experiences. In St. Croix, strategy becomes soul. Our retreats don't just refine your message, they rediscover your mission. One founder rewrote his entire company story here. Funding followed 30 days later. This is where leaders remember who they were meant to be. In Vibrant Miami, momentum meets amplification, transforming your voice into a movement. In Miami, your brand becomes a movement. Business development accelerators, audience building. Joy came with an old website and an outdated company name, but she left with 5,000 followers and a waiting list. This is where you scale with soul. 3 cities, 1 mission, your legacy ignited. It started with a thread. Let's pull it together. Stop blending and start leading. 5-star BD&M, where legacy is engineered, embodied, and ignited. Visit 5starbdm.com and book your brand audit today.
Welcome back, everybody. Thank you again for joining us on The Big Picture. We're talking about bank games. And bank games, we're talking hidden fees, low saving yields, credit card traps, overdraft strategies, the way banks profit from the float of your deposits. And that's a whole financial chessboard operating in the background. And that's the average person really never gets to see. But this is not about conspiracy. This is about structure that we learned from Chris. This is about system that we learned from Chris. This is about understanding the rules of a game that many people are playing, but very few truly understand. And Chris is helping us to get that kind of knowledge and experience. So, Chris, tell us more about bank games.
Great, Grant, because I think it is important. I think it's important, even if you don't change what you're doing.
Well, we are going to change a little bit about what we are doing because we don't want the smoke, we don't want the mirrors, and we know there's a lot of financial mumbo jumbo that happens in the background. I want to make sure we are clear. I am not a banker, but Chris tells me if you ever see a thin banker, you should probably close your account. But
never trust a skinny banker.
So tell us.
But Grant, there's a lot of things there in terms of even if we don't change our behavior, to understand why we're behaving this way, I think is important, right? Mm-hmm. And again, it's easy enough for me to look at it and say, well, why should I have a checking account at all? Why not just have the savings account and pay everything directly from there? And you can do that. Okay, there's no possibility that you can't. The banks will tell you, well, it's safer because somebody can't get to all your money, but that's not true because they can, if they want to, they can get to it, right? And especially the bank. And the second part of that is that while you have a savings account, you shouldn't keep your money in the savings account. Please. Banks are laughing at you every day when they pay you 1% or less interest. What you need to do is to have an account outside of that. And whether it's a money market account or an account where you can gain a higher interest, a high yield account, or even something like crypto, you should have your money somewhere else and not just in your savings account, or even have a second savings account, right? If you feel that you need separation for comfort, right? But the thing is that we have been ingrained to understand certain things and certain practices, and it's not in the best interest of the banks to undo that understanding.
So why you said I'm not going to cut off my nose in spite of my face if you don't understand the game? But that's I always go back, and I've been on this tangent for over a year ago, and it's still the same. Or how we're educated. From K through 12. And understanding, science and math, that stuff's important. English is very important. But if you don't understand the system in which you live in, that's bad. You need to understand the world in which how you thrive and you strive in. You need to understand how these different levers. You need to understand the banking system as well as you understand how to play football, basketball, and whatever the other sports, and how these things are run. You need to understand these things. Like, oh wow, you know what? This is a third grader should understand. Oh yeah, I'm going to put my money over there because they're taking my nickels. I should put it over here where I can get quarters. We should understand these things, but we don't. Every day we see on the nightly news, we talk about the stock exchange, Wall Street, little things happen, and the Dow was up. People are like, well, what's the Dow? I bet if you ask the average American, what is the Dow? They'll be like, I'm not real sure. It's about stocks. It's about major banks making money, not even banks, just corporations making money. And you're not wrong with that. But how are you related to the Dow? How does that affect you? And how does that work in your world if you're not participating in that system? Because if you're only at the opening of the door of a checking and savings account and haven't really went through this straight through the bank, straight through the back of the bank, straight through the vault, and straight through the other side and into the back door, you're not going to understand how this money flow is happening.
Grant, let me first add to that and say that most people can't even spell Dow. Okay. Okay. And keep in mind also that it's not people or companies making money in the stock market. It's stockbrokers.
Ooh, stop. Full stop.
If your shares go up, they make money. If your shares go down, they make money. Doesn't matter to them. Trade like you want to. We make money no matter what you do, right? It's interesting business, right?
Mhm.
But we're getting a little off the topic, and I want to come back to this. And I want to put out there, you hear conspiracy theories all the time. Well, I got one for you.
Yeah.
Okay, so you and I have spoken many times on the show about education in the K to 12 range, particularly when it comes to enlightening the knowledge of people financially, right? I would submit to you the conspiracy theory that it is by design that the education system does not incorporate financial training in, for instance, the 4 years of high school. Take a course each year. I think it's by design. Both the banks, the politician, the government, none of them really want you to understand these things. They want you to, and I know I said it earlier, follow like sheep. And when you don't understand something, you can't really question it, and you just do it because the system kind of forces you to do it.
Yeah, you got to work. As you said last week, yeah, you have to work. They put you in a situation, you have to work. But then you're working for what? Money. But then if you don't understand all the facets of money, you start to understand, well, what are you working for again?
I would change that a little bit, Grant. I would say that while we're told we work for money and while we think we work for money, what we really work for are the things that we don't have and can't afford.
Okay. The desire for these, well, sometimes not even desire, things you absolutely have to have.
Well, to me, there's a difference between what I have to have and what, especially, advertised in the media and with marketing, which, by the way, supports bank governments and these kind of things, what they want us to believe we need to have. Okay. A car has a steering wheel, 4 tires, 4 seats, and goes down the road, right? Yeah. Oh no, you need a BMW. Oh no,
status.
You're better than your neighbor. You need a Mercedes. Oh no, they come needs or wants.
Yeah, and then let's talk about this. And this is a key thing: time value of money. The time value of money. And to your point about, in the background, and the banks totally understand this, how much is a dollar worth today as opposed to what it's worth tomorrow or next week or last week. The time value of money changes. So that dollar, every day, that dollar is not the same dollar in value. It's not 100 pennies. Sometimes it's 98 pennies. Sometimes it's 105 pennies. But it changes all the time. I've noticed that when I'm doing business deals, right? Now we're doing a deal on a transaction. It might be a enterprise deal for some technology, and it comes up. The CFO comes up and starts talking about these things, the time value of money, because you get this sweet ROI you put in front of them, and he says, "Well, that's not exactly what it's going to be worth in 3 years because the time value of money is going to be different," right?
No, and Grant, that's true. And believe me, the banks understand this way better than we do. And when it comes to these kind of things, there's actually teams inside the bank that work on thinking of these things, and they work through all the pluses and minuses and the ramifications. So let me give you one thing that over the last few years has become big, and it's a trap. Totally convinced in my mind that it's a trap. It's a trap we fall into, and we fall into it because we are basically selfish.
Okay.
So it has to do with rebates and points when you buy something.
Rebates and points, rewards. Yes,
that's what that's doing. And I'll give you the plus part, of course, is that if I spend $100 and I'm getting a 5% reward, I get $5 back, right? So I really only spent $95. Sounds really good, right? And of course it does, and of course that's why so many people are taking advantage of it, right? The problem is what people don't see is that it's good for the banks, and it's very good for companies in general because they don't have to put their product on sale anymore. They're offering a rebate, right? So they're able to keep their price high. And that keeps the price high for everyone. And everyone, all those people that are not getting the rewards and rebates, are really paying for our rewards and rebates, right? So because we're very selfish, everyone else pays more. That's the short game here. I'll give you a great example, right? You know, a big issue in retail shopping, at a clothing store, for example, a big issue they have is shoplifting, right? Mm-hmm. Somebody comes in, they stick a shirt inside their shirt, they walk out, right?
Right.
Okay, what does that do? That person gets a free shirt. They're happy, they've benefited, and they're selfish because it means that when I go to the store to actually buy a shirt, I'm paying more to compensate for the shirts that are going out the door for free. Okay, mm-hmm. This is the same mindset behind rewards. We give something back to a few people so we can keep the price high for everyone else, and what they pay more than compensates for whatever rewards we're giving out.
These are, banking practices in the back. They take advantage of consumer behavior. That's one of the consumer behaviors because things are unaffordable. So you find a way to get around that, but we're going to get around that even more. We're going to spread that kind of behavior around to everybody. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back to this because we got to talk about this spread also because, I'm thinking about sandwich spread, but you're thinking about something completely different. We'll talk about that.
I used to watch BET, MTV, VH1, now I watch Tempo. Soca, Calypso, Reggae Dancehall. Don't stall, better get tuned in to the Tempo. Don't have cable, they got an app. Go to your app store, download that. Whether it's tourism, cuisine, or the social scenes, if it ain't Tempo, it's a wrap. Who got the Caribbean views? Tempo. Mr. Latest in Caribbean news? Tempo. You tryna cook Caribbean food? Tempo. You know they got the music videos too? Tempo. Who got the Caribbean views? Tempo. Mr. Latest in Caribbean news? Tempo. You tryna cook Caribbean food? Tempo. You know they got the music videos too? Tempo.
Welcome to our TV network, your ultimate destination for all things exciting and essential. From mouth-watering food to the latest in fashion, health, education, music, movies, and news, plus thrilling sports and breathtaking travel. Our TV network brings it all to you. Tune in today and experience the best of every world, all in one place, RTV.network.
All right. Welcome back, everybody. I left you guys a little bit talking about the spread, and the spread game is real. Everybody, a lot of people just watch the Final Four, March Madness. There's a spread every game. What's the likelihood of one team beating another team, and that spread, and people bet on that spread, and that becomes, the interest in the world of gambling. But I tell you this. As of March 2026, the FDIC's national average savings rate was 0.39%, about 0.4, and interest checking was 0.07. So it's closer to just a half a percentage point. And what does that mean is that the Federal Reserve interest rate on reserve balances was about 3.65%, a lot bigger. But that doesn't mean that the banks were making 3.65 on every deposit dollar, but it does show you the wide economics that can be between where the consumers earn and what the system earns. It's a big difference, big spread. What do you think there, Chris?
Well, Grant, look, there's spreads in everything. And what people don't really understand is that a spread is a risk management tool. Okay? So when a casino puts out a sports betting line, they're risk managing. Okay? They're looking at what the likelihoods, the probabilities of this or that, so that they can effectively make money, right? The banks do the same thing when it comes to money. They're betting on the foreign exchange, for instance. They're betting on the interest rate. It's the same thing when we look at, and those numbers are very telling, right? So you get 0.5%, right? In the meantime, the banks can put their money into the Fed with no risk at over 3%. They can give you a mortgage with limited risk, 5-6%. They can give you a car loan, a little more risk, but 10-12%. And the king of them all, we can give you a credit card at 35%, right?
Wow.
So now your 0.5% is turning around and producing 35%, right? And the credit card market.
Whoa! You gotta slow. You just that 0.5% just produced 35%. Talk about the spread. That's huge.
Yeah, and this is happening every day, all the time, right? Now, it really gets interesting to me when you start looking at those things, and you start to understand how important it is for the banks to make sure that we keep money in a checking account where there's 0.5% or 0% interest, and that we keep money in a savings account where it might be 1%. You know, there's really so much value to them. Like I said, they have staffs that all they do is focus on this, and meetings that come up with new ways and new things, and it goes right to the boardroom and where it gets approved or not approved. I mean, this is not by chance, is what I'm trying to say. This is a strategy, a concerted effort. And the reward game plays into that. Because now when you use your debit card from Wells Fargo, you can go and you can get back whatever they're offering, you know, whether it's points, money, whatever, they're offering something. And the incentive, again, is keep it in a checking account, keep it there for your use, and we'll give you something. And they're playing to our selfish side. They're playing to us looking at everything as just from our view and not from what's the benefit of everyone's view. Because again, like shoplifting, you and I are paying for those rewards that other people are getting.
Talk about a low risk, you know, like I'm giving an award, like I'm actually giving something from my money, my bank account, my war chest, whatever you want to call it. But yet you're just taking from somebody else's and giving it, you know, it's almost like a legalized Ponzi scheme, but I'm not going to go there. But there's some things there that like we don't really think about, like how this stuff works, you know, these overdraft fees. And that's the thing, if you make a mistake, and people, this is the killer. Like, so, you know, your poor little self, you got this checking account and you don't have enough money to cover a check, right, or something like that, and then those fees are ridiculous. They only get you once, they'll get you 2, 3, 4, 5 different times on that interest on the what you said, the checking account, that actually they don't even pay you any money on, but then they're going to just super ding you on these fees.
And Grant, it's worse than that, okay? Because you have to understand that, I don't know, if you have an overdraft on your checking account, which again, we're questioning the need for a checking account, but if you have an overdraft, what is it, $30, $35, something in that range? But keep in mind, on the bank side, this stuff is totally automated. There's no human interference needed. The cost to them is in pennies to get that $35 fee.
I'm starting to see the ratio, the spread, right? You know, you went from a 0.5% to 35% in the credit card. You went from, you know, 0.5%, not even probably no percentage on the checking account, to $35 every time you change, you late. It's almost like, I think I want them to have a low checking balance so they trip that, they go through that trip wire, right? You know?
And Grant, what is the percentage of markup from, say, 3.5 pennies for them to process an overdraft fee to the $35 they're charging?
Oh man, he said, why is he smiling every time I come in here and I try to make my
1,000%? Is that their margin? 1,000%?
That's a lot. Yeah.
You don't see that in print anywhere, by the way.
this is so interesting how banks make money, the overdraft fees, things like that, and then they got these apps that are out there as well, and they're saying that the number in the app is not always the number the bank uses for fee decisions. Now that's important right now, that the deposit, withdrawals, the transactions don't always update immediately in the order that the consumer expect. That's almost like that beat the check to the bank type of thing. So that gap between displayed balance and available balance and ledger balance, that is the one reason people feel like the game is rigged, especially in this world of real-time communications and technology. What do you mean you don't know? You absolutely do know.
Grant, the mistake you made here is it's absolutely rigged. It's not maybe. It's well thought out in advance. It's time-tested practices. It's boardroom decisions. It is rigged, and
wow, you're killing me with that, man. That's that one mistake. It's absolutely well thought out, well rigged. Wow. So they show you one thing, do another thing. It's a shell game to a certain degree. So God bless the child who has his own, because it's a dog eat dog world out there when you understand how these things are calculated. And it's almost like, you've been through an obstacle course, right, Chris? And so now you're going to go through this obstacle course. The thing is here, people don't know they're going through this obstacle course. Like, well, why is this happening? Why is you're
Grant, look, you have a better chance of getting hit by lightning than you do in being able to get around a lot of these things. And I just want to go to a side check. We just had a very big, there's a lot of things going on in the news, of course, but a very big event that just happened, which was the first manned flight into space in a long time, right?
Right.
And it made me think about certain things. Getting struck by lightning is a very rare occasion, especially getting struck and being able to live, right?
Right.
But here, let me give you an occurrence even more rare. And it's happened one time that is recorded and validated as being correct. And that's back in 1954, Grant.
1954?
Yep. The only recorded time that a person was hit by a meteorite from space and lived.
Wow, really? A meteorite?
Yeah, let me give you a little bit of the story. So again, 1954 in Alabama, a woman is lying on her couch taking a nap in the afternoon when all of a sudden an 8.5 pound, 4.5 billion year old meteorite came crashing through her house, ricocheted off her large radio. And remember, back in those days, it wasn't TV. You had radios the size of TVs. Ricocheted off the radio and hit her in the stomach and produced a bruise that was about a foot long by about 6 inches wide.
Wow. Talk about bad luck, man. Well, she lived. You said she lived.
And she lived, right? And she was home there with her mother, right? And she lived. And now gets to be the interesting parts, right? Is they were renting the home, right? Yeah. And her husband came home later and was very surprised and everything. Even more so, the landlady showed up and demanded the meteorite because they're only renting the house.
Oh, so now it's hers. She owns it, right?
Right. And the woman who was actually hit by the meteorite said, I'm the one that got hit by it. It's mine. She's going to have to take me to court for it. And they actually ended up settling out of court for $500, right? And they did that because the husband felt he'd be able to turn that meteorite into a lot more money. He was not able to. And that meteorite actually sat around the house as a doorstop for years.
Things you didn't know, man. That's some interesting news. We're talking about a lot of things. That might be the most interesting bit of news I've heard on this show today.
Now it's also interesting because, this actually contributed to some poor health from this woman, as well as the breakup of her marriage. And she ended up dying in 1972 from kidney failure that they said was related to the damage she had suffered back at that time. Right now, here's where it gets more interesting because we're all about the financial part of it, right?
Yeah, right.
So this meteor actually split in two, and the second piece was found by a guy driving his mule cart. It was Alabama, all right, and that piece was sold by Christie's auction house in 2017. Sorry.
Oh, Chris just went blank on us. We got to hear the rest of this story when he comes back. That is nuts. We're going to take a quick break. Then we're going to come back. We're going to hear the end of the story.
Yeah.
Follow the Brand TV broadcast host, Grant McGaw, as he visits with top executives and entrepreneurs to find out their secrets of success with their personal brand. Follow the Brand TV broadcast host as he focuses on brand development to build better relationships, bring value to your business, relationships, and career. You will enjoy listening to each episode that is tailored to speak to you directly. If you're looking for this type of clarity in terms of building your brand, you have tuned into the right station. Each episode will help you to shape a conversation in the 5-star BDM network of 20,000 professionals and become a springboard for your corporate engagement and business opportunities. Each guest will frame their story in the areas of personal branding, business development, career development, financial empowerment, and technology innovation. Grant McGaw explains why he is the CEO and owner of his own professional career. Grant is an accomplished business leader and entrepreneur who wants to give back to individuals to grow their personal brand strategy. Tune in as he weaves his story about new possibilities, while to you exceed expectations. If you love storytelling, this show will make for fun.
Third Wall Street is a new emerging global capital markets formation and structured trifactor financial hub at the U.S. Third Border in St. Croix, U.S. Virgin Islands, in the Caribbean and Latin America. The new Third Wall Street is the home of the Alexander Hamilton Financial Center and named in honor of Alexander Hamilton, an American founding father, first U.S. Treasury Secretary, and architect of the U.S. financial system and modern America. Third Wall Street is located in a U.S. National Heritage Area, Opportunity Zone, and the boyhood home of Alexander Hamilton in St. Croix, U.S. Virgin Island, connecting 3 financial hubs in the Americas by way of new innovative financial technology and markets: New York Wall Street South, Brickell Avenue, Miami, and Third Wall Street in St. Croix, U.S. Virgin Islands, and established the new Caribbean America's Single Economy Zone, developed by SETI Case Capital Markets. Third Wall Street will transform financial markets, improving access to capital worldwide. Visit www.thirdwallstreet.com to learn more.
Chris, you got me on a cliffhanger. What happened to this meteorite that hit this guy in a mule cart in Alabama?
Well, it was a woman that she was laying on her couch. The second half was found by a guy walking around. Now, Christie's sold this second part of the meteor, not the part that hit the woman, second part in 2017, Grant, for $7,500, which came out to about $730 per gram. Now, at the time, back in 2017, gold was $40 a gram.
Yeah.
Okay, which also shows you how much the price of gold has changed between 2017 and now. It's gone up a lot, right?
Oh, a lot. I would figure that a piece of meteorite from space would be worth more, maybe because of the novelty. I don't know, but gold, maybe Is it the use case of gold, or maybe just because we like shiny objects?
Well, Grant, I mean, look, the difference between $730 a gram and $40 a gram makes meteors much more valuable. And there are people out there, professional meteor hunters, that go around looking at these things. And I will tell you one thing. If I was able ever to step my foot onto the moon, I'd be filling my pockets up with stones.
Maybe that's what happened when they went on the dark side of the moon. They parked, got out, and got them some moon rocks, and then, nobody's going to miss them, right?
Now, I'll give you the final part of the story, which the original part of the meteor that hit the woman in the stomach and damaged her, right, was used, like I said, they couldn't sell it. They used it as a doorstop. When the marriage broke up in 1964, they donated the doorstop meteor to the Alabama Historical Society, and it's now in a museum in Alabama.
Okay, so it's a doorstop, but now you're telling me it's worth more than gold. But I'm confused. Is that complicated? You made it very complicated.
There's two things, Grant. I mean, one is, if they had held on to it, it would have been worth a lot, right? Like a lot of things, if we hold on to them, right? Is one thing. The other thing is, if you don't know where to sell it, it's only what somebody's going to pay. And if you can't find the buyer to pay for it, you're not going to sell it, right?
This is interesting stuff. Now, we started this whole discussion about bank games. And I think if anybody, you've been listening to this whole story, we understand the fluency of commerce and money, and how banks de-risk themselves and then take really raw advantage of our unawareness. I'm gonna use the word unawareness about how the financial system actually works, and they're able to take advantage. Because I think that's a raw advantage when you're paying someone half a percentage point on their checking account, and on the other side you're charging 35% on a credit card, or on a banking fee that you came up late on a banking fee. Great, but you're going to charge them $35 when it costs you really nothing. It's almost like I'm just dinging you because you de-risk, you added more risk, to my portfolio. So shame on you. You're going to have to pay for that.
And Grant, let me give you again the drawbacks of a checking account, right? Okay, so here's one of the games the banks play, right? I mail a check to you for $25, right?
Yeah.
I keep a minimum balance on my checking account. I'm not getting any interest. They're not doing anything to me. Why do I need to keep money there? Well, I don't, right? But I never know exactly when your $25 check will hit. And it always seems to hit when my balance is below $25. And it happens overnight where I wake up in the morning and it's too late to do anything about it. Boom, overdraft charge. By design. I will submit to you, Grant, it's by design.
Wow. That's why I like instantaneous transactions. Beating the check to the bank, that used to be a thing. There was a time delay of money, where now if I Zelle you, it's immediate. There's no overdraft. It happens right then and there. There's no timing, when it comes to that.
Right. So you don't have to balance your checkbook, so to speak. The money is automatically taken out very quickly. And listen, it works both ways. Keep in mind, a lot of people write checks today, knowing the mail will take 2 or 3 days before they get it, and another day or two before the bank actually processes it. You can mail a check on Monday to pay a bill. They might get it Wednesday or Thursday, and I'm good, but the money is actually not in there till Friday. So
I don't personally write checks.
Banks don't like it when we do that.
I do not write checks. I know on the back end that I think I'll write a check, let's say for a car payment or something. It's not I'm writing a check. I'm actually paying my car payment. But what happens is my bank is sending a check on my behalf to like a credit union or something like that.
It's not a check, and it's electronic payment always.
Well, there you go. So they're doing other things in the background. I haven't had a checking book, like a checkbook, me personally, in probably a decade, because I just don't write checks. And when I do have to write a check, then I will go to the bank, get me like 3 checks I'll write a check because for whatever reason this entity needed a check, and then I'll write a check. But I very rarely write checks. Now, my mom and my dad, they still they love writing checks because they grew up in that era, you know. But I do not write checks. I think checks are kind of the thing of the dodo.
Well, Grant, and there's another layer to this. Okay, so again, when I describe the thing, you keep a limited or small amount of money in your checking account. A check comes in to hit, even if you have enough balance in there. The other thing that you don't really have good view to is the subscriptions you have attached to your checking account, right?
Oh yeah.
All of a sudden, I've got everything planned out perfectly. That check's coming, great. And then next thing I know, I wake up in the morning and Netflix hit me with $16, and now I'm $1 below. Good fee right away. Okay.
Is there somebody that's sitting there like atop, like, you know, where you're watching a horse race or something, like which horse is going to finish first or last? Horse is hit again.
A horse race is chance. Okay. On the bank side, this is not chance. There are algorithms that are designed in the background to maximize the bank's efficient use of your capital.
Wow. So it's a tough system. You got a couple of minutes here. What do you advise people to do as a consumer? They've heard about, like, wow, this is a rigged system that is very, very difficult. You're saying, hey, get rid of your checking account. Don't have a checking account, put money else. What is your advice to our society?
Well, I tell you, Grant, you know, to me, it's unbank yourself.
I thought of some other words when you said that, but go ahead, unbank yourself.
you know, because if you really understand your money and how it works and how you're going to use it, you should be able to develop your own strategy for being able to get your bills paid, to be able to, as much as you can, maximize some interest benefits to yourself. You should be able to do this. Most people, though, are missing three things, I think, right? Okay. One is the knowledge and understanding of how to do that and what it means, right? Okay. I think number two is they're drawn in by the convenience factor and the time that it seems that it takes for that, right? And that becomes then, you know, number three, where I just don't bother.
Yeah. It's all right. So you said first get the knowledge, right? You got to get the knowledge and experience and understanding. Number two, I think it's that you have to take action. You got to do something, right? To change the game, change the behavior, right? The unanticipated. Wow, what happened? And then number three, what was number three? You said don't do anything.
Number three is that most people really don't know enough to care.
Yeah.
So they don't do anything.
Well. Just let it ride.
And the system is built on.
Wow, just let it ride. Yeah. Oh, you know what? I don't know. A lot of people, maybe our audience is not into gambling, but when you say let it ride, that means whatever.
Whatever's on the table, just keep it right there.
And understanding this, the house wins because when you play the law of averages, there are very deterministic values that don't change, and the banks know that the law of averages don't change. They know if you roll the dice 10 times, 2 times you may win. 8 times you're not going to win. So those 8 times is what they bank on. So when you let it ride, there's a 2 out of 10 you might actually do well. 8 out of 10 you probably won't. Understand that.
And Grant, that's a rule in the casinos and in the betting world. It's a rule in banking. It's a rule in insurance also.
Okay. Yeah, well, we already know the insurance game. Talk about a rig. Wow, they're betting on you. Talk about the bet. The bets are in when it comes to the insurance world for sure.
And I'll give you another example of where
we've only got 30 seconds.
Okay, where people don't take action and they just give in, right? How many times have you had like a refund that you're expecting that's small money, but to have to call the company up, to have to send them a message, to have to follow up? You don't. You just let it go. Okay, they count on that.
You got to let it ride. They bank on, yeah, because it's so complicated. That complication by design, as you said, too complicated to go. Most people aren't going to go through that unless you just have a vendetta and that kind of thing. So we're going to end today. We're going to come back next week. You got to keep following me and Chris because we're giving you the real picture, the big picture on the financial systems that we operate in. So thank you again. We'll see you next week.
All right, Grant.
Welcome to our TV network, your ultimate destination for all things exciting and essential. From mouth-watering food to the latest in fashion, health, education, music, movies, and news, plus thrilling sports and breathtaking travel. Our TV network brings it all to you. Tune in today and experience the best of every world, all in one place, rtv.network.